To provide affordable auto parts to the people of Pakistan, local workshops utilize traditional sand casting to produce brake discs. Large factories collect and assemble these brake discs, which employ local workers and are a third cheaper than imported alternatives. Although this method is relatively slow, high-quality brake discs can still be produced with simple machinery. These discarded engine cylinder heads are the primary raw material for brake discs. Craftsmen cut the cylinder heads into small pieces with a cutting machine to speed up the melting process and break them down with a sledgehammer, helping the metal melt faster. Each batch of scrap iron is weighed before melting to ensure the proper proportions are put into the furnace. Over time, Pakistan's casting technology has significantly improved, with the factory's transportation equipment upgraded from manual handling to automated conveyor systems. Using a motor-driven steel cable, the scrap iron is directly transported from the ground floor to the boiler room on the second floor, which not only improves work efficiency but also aids in insulation. The scrap iron is then directly fed into the furnace for melting. To maintain chemical balance, craftsmen add a certain proportion of iron ore to the furnace as needed, producing high-quality molten iron. While the iron is melting, the craftsmen begin preparing the molds for casting. They prepare a flat base plate and place the brake disc mold base on it. To prevent the sand from sticking to the mold, they sprinkle a layer of talcum powder on the mold surface. Next, they place a circular iron frame around the mold, leaving an opening for pouring. The craftsmen then fill the mold with pre-mixed molding sand, ensuring it is compacted to prevent air pockets in the cast brake disc. The mold is designed with a double-layer structure to remove the finished brake disc easily. Once the sand is filled, it is compacted again. Since brake discs are relatively small, the mold-making process is quicker. Next, several small holes are poked in the outer layer of the mold for ventilation. To prevent mold cracking during casting, the craftsmen use a blowtorch to dry the mold surface, removing all moisture. After heating, an inner core of sand is placed in the center of the brake disc mold to create a hollow structure. This sand core isolates the molten iron, and once casting is complete, the sand core is broken away, forming the hollow brake disc. With the mold ready, it's time for casting. Meanwhile, the molten iron is prepared. To enhance its flow and ensure quality during solidification, craftsmen add some ferrosilicon and borax to the iron. This ensures the molten iron meets casting standards and prevents defects in the finished product. The craftsmen then carefully carry the ladle of molten iron to the casting area, pouring it through the mold opening to ensure it fills the mold. After casting, the molten iron needs time to cool and solidify. While still hot, the craftsmen demold the brake discs at this semi-cooled stage to prevent deformation from shrinkage if demolded completely cold. After several hours of cooling, the excess sand is removed from the cast brake disc. Though the brake disc is roughly formed, it has many burrs from the casting process and needs further machining on a lathe to ensure the surface that contacts the brake pads is smooth. This machining process is relatively long. Once the turning process is complete, the brake disc takes on a new appearance. The craftsmen then move it to a drilling platform for precise hole drilling. Using a specially designed template, they ensure each hole is accurately aligned. The brake disc is painted after drilling to prevent rust during use, primarily coating the inner gaps to avoid rusting over time. Finally, the brake disc is placed back on the lathe to remove the paint from the contact surfaces carefully. This completes the manufacturing process of a brake disc. What do you think of the Pakistani craftsman's skills? If you were to rate them out of 10, how many points would you give?